Hi everyone. Welcome back to Java Ops. I will be explaining the new Java 17 features in under 5 minutes. So first, an important note about Java's release cycle, since Java 10 Java is on a 6-month release cycle. So even though Java 17 is a long-term support version, there are no real major or exciting updates this version, so here we have a list of the JAPs or JDK enhancement proposals in Java 17. But to simplify this a little bit I have to fight it all. The JAPs in this version in 4 categories. So first we have some nice developer stuff. The second category is some specific developer stuff. Then we have some keeping up with Apple stuff, and the last category is cleaning up stuff, also important. So first, the nice developer stuff, we have 2 JAPs, that is the pattern matching for switch and sealed classes. JEP 406 expands switch statements by allowing patterns indicate stables. They also added a special case no, so you don't have to check for no any longer. And 2 new patterns were added, guarded and parenthesized patterns. So what does it look like previously? If you wanted to check for multiple patterns on an object, you could write asterisk of if-else statements like this, by adding patterns to the switch statement. You could simplify the code like this. Here integer, I is the pattern. And if the pattern is met, if the object is an integer, then is also the reference to the object, and it's possible to add further refinement to the pattern with a guarded pattern, where you add a Boolean expression after to a sense. Then we have JAB 409, which adds sealed class, has sealed classes and interfaces, restrict which other classes may extend or implement them. They use the sealed modifier in the declaration of the class and then have your permits clause to specify what classes are allowed to extend the sealed class. These subclasses must be final sealed or none sealed. This is a new keyword which you use when you specifically do want to extend one of these subclasses of a sealed class. Then we have some JABs that are interesting for more specific use cases. First, JAB 306. They make floating point operations more consistent. This has to do with some CPUs and how they treat flows differently, or under the hood, use a double. They should be more consistent in JDK 17. Then we have JEF 356, which adds a new interfaces and implementations for pseudo-random number generators. They also better support streams. JEF 403 is a continuation of a trend since Java 9 to encapsulate the internal non-critical APIs of the JDK, which death shouldn't use sun, miscon. Safe is deemed critical and remains usable too. There are proper alternatives. Then there's JEB 412, which introduced an API by which Java programs can interoperate with code and data outside of the Java runtime. This was already possible with J and I. But this new API should be easier, safer, and more performance in JEF 414. The factor API returns in a second incubator. The API allows factor computations. And again, these should be easier, more reliable and more performance than the previous incubation. Last in this category is JEB 415, which allows us to add context-specific deserialization filters. Userialization is risky business, and this can provide another layer of security when deserializing untrusted stuff. In the third category, we have 2 JABs at our Apple-specific. The first one, chapter on 82SHR, 2D rendering pipeline that uses the Apple Metal API. Instead of a deprecated OpenGL API, this is used in Swing, for example. And the new Metal API is more performant in some areas. The other chap has to do with the Apple Silicon and Porsche, the JDK to their new ARM 64 architecture. The last category with JAPs is cleanup in JAP 398. The applet API is removed. It had been deprecated for years and most browsers don't even support anymore. The next JEP remove. The RMI activation mechanism, or AMI, is still used and remains in the JDK. But the activation mechanism is obsolete and is therefore removed. Then there is JEF 410, where they remove the experimental AOD and Git compiler draw. It was hardly used from the JDK and most people use Growl VM nowadays. The last chap is 411, where they deprecated the security manager, which is ancient and hasn't been relevant for a long time anymore. Okay. These are all the new features in Java 17. I hope this was useful video. If you want more information, check out the information on the JAPs on the Open Erica website. See you in the next one.